Good morning. Round of applause for you for making it here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Welcome to the 2017 Toy Talks. My name is Christine Lanphere, and I am the 2007 National Language Teacher of the Year. And I'm very pleased to welcome you here this morning. We will be having a series of 3 Toy Talk sessions today at 8, 11:15, and 4 o'clock. So, I don't know about you, but as a teacher, or just as a general person in the public, when I go to the grocery store, or if I'm at the gym and I'm chatting with somebody, oftentimes I get asked, so what do you do? And I answer, I teach. And generally I then get the follow-up question, well, what do you teach? And I say, I teach French, or I teach high school French. And I usually get one of 2 answers. Oh. Or, oh, high school? But really, teachers teach students. So that got me thinking about, for today's presentation, got me thinking about what is it that I really teach? And I want to share with you some of the things that I identified. And I hope that maybe you're going to see some things you teach and maybe pick up a few ideas for yourself. So first of all, I teach organization. I believe that one of the things that especially teenagers need desperately is the ability to organize themselves and maintain structure in their lives. And that requires training and practice. So for me, that's all about routines and procedures. And you also may have structures and organization related to how you want them to keep a notebook or how you want them to organize a binder, etc. But for me, it's those routines that make the predictable nature of your class seem comfortable to your students. So for example, I always greet my students at the door and I shake their hand and say bonjour, and they know that they're expected to shake my hand and repeat bonjour back to me. I always open class with a daily greeting, bonjour class, and they know to respond, bonjour mademoiselle. I also have routines that are related to, well, for those routines to work, you have to be able to teach them the appropriate responses, and you need to give them those structures. And you may also decide to build routines in about how they interact with each other, such as teaching them some greetings and some leave takings, such as, how are you today? Or, have a nice day. I also teach interpersonal skills. And bottom line, one of our modes of communication is the interpersonal mode of communication. So it's incredibly important for us to provide our students with the tools to practice interpersonal skills and to give them the practice using them. For example, teenagers are not always good at interpersonal, okay? So we need to give them those polite phrases. Thank you, please. How are you? May I have? And give them opportunities to practice that. Also, we need to give them the opportunity to actually interact interpersonally. If all we're doing is interacting teacher to student, and not student to student, because that would be their normal interpersonal interaction, then we're lacking the ability to move them towards eventually interacting interpersonally with people from another culture. It's also extremely important to train our students on how different cultures interact interpersonally. Is it appropriate to bow? Is it appropriate to touch, as in shake a hand or kiss on the cheek? Is it appropriate to do a certain particular mannerism as you are giving something to someone? You need to train them for those interpersonal skills. I also teach compromise. Teenagers often need to understand that compromise is not about I lose. Compromise is about how do we figure out that we both get something. And they need to learn how to negotiate, whether it's in English with their English-speaking peers or whether it's in another culture, in another language. We have to teach them how to compromise, how to negotiate. So one particular way to do that is to put up sentence starters around the room so that they have some of those language tools to negotiate. Things like, I agree, I disagree, I want, what do you want? And then we have to build in the practice. They have to be able to practice using those words so they become part of their toolkit or their baggage that they take to those interactions with other people. I teach relationships. Bottom line, interpersonal is about relationship and building relationship. And we need to give our students the opportunity to build relationships with ourselves, with other teachers on our campus, but also with each other. Teenagers are not always very good at building relationships. And I don't know about you, but the number of times that I have heard a student tell me, I don't want to work with her, or I don't want to work with him. Can I just do it on my own? That's astonishing to me. And as they go out into the real world or the world of business or the world of travel, they have to be able to work with other people. So we need to give them the opportunity to practice that. Best way to build relationships is by structuring that organization of partner talk. I routinely, and I'm sure you do also, routinely ask my students to turn to their partner. And whether it's to just go over something that they've just brainstormed before they're going to be called on in order to make them feel more comfortable, or whether it is to ask them to engage in some sort of an interpersonal communication task, I do that, and that is part of the expectation of the class. However, every once in a while, I want to mix it up a little bit. And so one technique that I use is a set of green and pink flashcards or index cards where I've written the alphabet and then laminated them. I can stand at the door and shake their hand and greet them and hand them a card and hand them a card. And once they get into class, at the time that's appropriate for the activity, I tell them, your partner is the person with the same letter as you and the different color. And so I've randomized that partner aspect. They can't pick their best friend. They can't just turn to the partner that they always work with. So that's a technique that I use to make it a little bit different. I teach openness. Our students are sometimes extremely focused on themselves, which is appropriate because they're young, but they need to be aware that it's okay for things to be different and that they should seek out new opportunities. I ask them to think about it as not, that's weird, because that's their reaction, but that's different. The phrasing of that is, it's true, it's different, but the that's weird is so much more judgmental than the that's different. That's different is an observation. And I want them to look at things as, what can I learn from this person by observing that differentness? And what can that tell me about where they're coming from? One of the things that I like to do with my French 2s each year is a cheese tasting in the spring. That's always fun. They love to eat. And the main rule, everyone has to try something once. Be open to that new thing. I teach empathy. It's so important, I think, especially in our interpersonal relations with people, either from our own culture or from other cultures, that we put ourselves in their shoes, that we try to look at things from their perspective. Not say that's weird, say that's different, and wonder why. One of the things that we can do to help our students to be more empathetic is to teach them active listening skills. And by active listening skills, it's literally training them. When you listen to someone, you look at them. When you listen to them, you don't interrupt. You listen. And after you've listened to them, repeat back to them what you thought they said. For example, again, sentence starters around the room. I heard you say this. Is that true? Or, I'm interested in that. Can you tell me more? I teach resilience. Unfortunately, teenagers these days, I think, are faced with so many extremely difficult situations, either in their family or perhaps school life, and are often having to grow up way too fast. And as such, they have to develop resiliency, and that's not easy to do. I can think of 3 particular students who have demonstrated such resilience that I don't believe I could ever have demonstrated when I was their age. And I will be using their French names for privacy's sake. I think of Juliette, who lost her father in an extremely tragic car accident a few years ago. And yet she is the most positive, dedicated student, and one of the most empathetic people I think I have ever met. When I have been down or facing a serious situation, she's there to give me a hug. And she is persevering, and she is excited about the future. I think of Isabelle, whose single father, raising 3 children, was faced with homelessness, and they had to move in with extended family. And yet she came to school every day with a huge smile on her face, doing all of her work, striving for the perfection and the best she could do, and subsequently went to UC Santa Barbara, has graduated, and is now engaged to be married. One of the most resilient young women I know. And I think of Yvonne, who, faced with a family illness and death last year, nevertheless comes to school every day, positive, happy, smiling, and loving to dance and sing to the music that I put on every day. That's resilience. And the very basic resilience we can train our students for is the fact that our classroom is a place where it's okay to make a mistake. And in fact, I value that. And I tell them that the first couple of weeks of class. I say, this is a place where you can make a mistake. Because by making a mistake in language, you're actually learning. And you're actually improving your language. And it's not a bad thing to make a mistake. Now, if we've done our job with compromise and relationships and openness and empathy and resilience, tolerance is the next thing that's going to come down the line. All of those things that I've already said about being open to other ideas, about treating other people with respect, that's tolerance. We want our students to be open to new ideas, to be open to new experiences, and that's the way we're going to be able to create global citizens who are able to function, whether it's in social settings, business settings, or international relations. But really, I also teach world language. That's why I'm a teacher. It's my passion. I love communicating. I love learning about new people and new things. And so world language is what I teach, but all of the other things around it are also what I teach. And when you are at the grocery store checking out and someone asks you, what do you teach or what do you do? Hopefully now you have a lot more to say. Thank you.